What's going on, guys? It's Shawnee Salami, and today I figured we'd try something different and rank the maps. So without further ado, let's get into the Chivalry 2 map ranking. In dead last, to the surprise of absolutely nobody, we have the Lobby Destroyer himself, Moncrux. Every stage on the reclamation of Moncrux is terrible, but the beginning with the uneven terrain and the ballistas is definitely the worst part. I'm not exaggerating when I think whoever designed this needs to be fed to wild boars. This is crazy. Siege equipment drives me and many others crazy, but this one is just over the top. There is an excessive amount of ballistas, and after you break down the walls and move inside, there isn't a lot of room to move around, and the whole thing just feels claustrophobic as hell. It is a horrible map. I can't believe they made this. Next up, we have another Tenosian map, Bridgetown. Every map in Chivalry 2 favors attackers for most of the game until the end when defense gets a better chance to win and end the game. Bridgetown does not follow that formula because the hardest objective to get done on attack is the very first one, and if you do that, it's usually steamroll from then on. While Bridgetown definitely isn't the most balanced, its worst offense is that it's boring. When I play Chivalry 2, I want to siege a castle and have some epic and cinematic action movie moments. But Bridgetown is boring and drab looking. There's nothing exciting going on besides living out my fantasy of throwing rich people out of windows on the final stage. It's hilarious when you first do it, but well over a year later, it's nothing to write home about gameplay wise. The only good memories I have on Bridgetown are unironically ending it immediately on stage 1. Switching to defense and getting it over with hits like a drug. And when I do that, I feel like I was a superhero who came in and saved the day for the lobby I'm in. At number 11, we have Baldwin, which is yet another bad Tenosia map. This came out in what Torn Banner had teased since the game came out on the roadmap as the biggest update yet, which ended up being the Tenosian Invasion. The biggest update yet ended up introducing a faction people hate with some of the worst maps in the game, and horses, which are now part of a matchmaking queue barely anybody does. But I digress. In stage 1, we have the recurring D-Day problem with defense having way too many ballistas and very easy defense to set up. And then stage 2 and 3, we have some King of the Hill objectives, which are usually some of the best ones, but there is just not enough room to maneuver in either one. Stage 3 at the Town Hall in particular is awful, where there's only a few key points to get inside the building that are usually just being barricaded or fire potted until the timer runs out. The final stage is more of a wide open desert, but because I'm a slave to the objective, I usually spend this part of the map getting killed by the catapults while defending the cannons. All in all, it's just not a good map. I apologize if I'm sounding negative because there's a lot of amazing maps in Chivalry 2. This is the last of the bunch I'd consider outright bad. Askendir does a solid job on spectacle and cinematic movie moments that I talk about for me, but unfortunately it's just not balanced well with attackers getting way too much of an advantage, particularly in pubs where players aren't always playing for the win or doing the objective. The lighthouse is impossible unless you have some engineers, and the bridge is an automatic win for attackers. Things are a little better toppling the monuments and on the final stage defending the library, but overall, it is such a miserable time for defenders of constantly walking backwards and dying. I can't place it any higher. And then we have the Slaughter of Coxwell. Chivalry 2 has a lot of great maps, but then some truly bad ones, but Slaughter of Coxwell is the only one I'd have no real strong opinions about. Essentially, it's the only map that's just average in my eyes. I like that in stage 1, spawning as a peasant is a one-time thing and doesn't overstay its welcome like Bridgetown. Unfortunately, the gate phase is over before you know it because everybody is busy hiding on the walls. Capturing the gold is pretty boring, but I think the last stage is where Coxwell does shine. Trying to hang on as one of the last soldiers alive can lead to some of the most memorable moments in the game. I think that the last man standing objective is something that Torn Banner should have done more of. Here's hoping that they re-explore that in Chivalry 3. This one may be surprising to some people, but Dark Forest comes in at number 8. Dark Forest is hard to place because it's a map that depends on the team balance more than any other map in Chivalry 2 for team objective. Sometimes, defense will end up with the better players or players that are going hard on the objective, and when that's happening, Dark Forest is hard to beat. It feels like an epic life or death struggle, but more often than not, attack rolls defense until the last objective that decides the whole thing. Overall, though, I can't say I ever outright dislike Dark Forest. It's beautiful to look at, and I think fighting at night is really cool. Again, most of these maps are good, and Dark Forest is no exception, so number 8 feels about right. The Raid of Everfell is next, and this is a great map for sure. Chivalry 2 wears its influence on its sleeve, and this update was a clear ode to Braveheart, and the map itself knocked that feeling out of the park. I love the change of pace going from castle sieges to a more wide open grassy fields and plains. My biggest issue with Aberfell is it's uneven. It has some of my favorite objectives, but some not so great. The best one for me is the Hamlet. Like I said earlier, King of the Hill type objectives are great, and this one is simple but so effective. Just stand in the circle and stay alive and stop the enemy from capturing it. It's Chivalry 2 at its best. The first stage is solid in gameplay and gave us some Masons and pig-related memes in the community, which gives us some bonus points, and toppling the stones is also top-notch. But destroying the tower is just awkward. It's cramped where you light the explosives, which in pubs leads to players actively avoiding it and fighting other places. And the last stage, killing the druids, is not balanced at all. It is way too short, and the lack of time can lead to some anticlimactic letdowns of games that have very frustrating endings.
Falmire is a lot of fun, and it gets big-time bonus points for being fun while also being really long. If you're trying to have a massive high-kill game and you're not a Catapult main, this is the map for you. Overall, Falmire is a classic though. It gets better and better as you go deeper into the map, which is pretty sick. Stage 1 and 2 are okay, nothing great, but nothing egregious. Stage 3, where you have multiple open areas to fight instead of just one large one or several cramped areas, is awesome. We have a bridge, which is always a plus, and one of the most fun VIPs to play as. OGs remember when this was impossible to win on release, and there was weird strategies like going to the right, but overall, Falmire ends with a bang, and whether you're the VIP or not, the mad dash to the boat, in the end, never gets old.
I love Tryon Citadel, and I know that's maybe not the most popular opinion, and I'm not here to defend any of its problems. The reason I love it is I value presentation and the feel of things way more than balance. I like to remind people that this is a channel for the casuals despite my hours in the game, and Regicide is simply phenomenal in that aspect. The obvious glaring issue is the bridge. It's a disaster, and a total failure, and it should not last as long as it does. And that is the reason Tryon falls to number 6. I do think the first phase should have been like Rudhelm. I would have loved to fight in the burning fields longer, but fighting in the city is fun for me, and going building the building feels like what a real siege may have been like, and ending the map with a VIP versus VIP showdown is simply incredible. Again, I totally understand I'm in the minority here, but Tryon is a great example of why I try my best to not overanalyze why I like things, because for me, it comes down to this. Was it fun, or was it not? And Tryon is always a blast for me. Galencourt comes in at number 4, and if this is your favorite map in Chivalry 2, you'd get no argument from me. Galencourt is the most balanced map in the entire game. If you play for the win, or care about the objective on any level, then Galencourt is definitely the map for you. The individual stages are all good, but the highlight is the boats. I'll never forget seeing the boats explode for the first time. It's cinematic as hell and captures that movie feel the games go for masterfully. Otherwise, it's fun from beginning to end. I find the color palette pretty bland to look at, but that's personal preference. Before we continue, I'd like to request a like for the video if you've made it this far and are enjoying it, and for more Chivalry 2 content like narrated gameplay, why not subscribe? You can always take that back if you're not enjoying my content later, but let's get into our final 3, where I consider all of these maps S tier. These are the best maps in the game for me, and they stand out above the rest. Starting with Thayic Stronghold. Thayic Stronghold is gorgeous. I'm always partial to snow settings in any fictional medium, so this map is a dream come true for me, so there may be some bias at play here. Every stage feels unique and different from the others, and they all play out differently, so we'll even be forgiving Phase 1 being the D-Day mess again. But you know it, I know it, what makes this map truly special and cemented as one of the best is the ending. It is by far the best objective in the game, the best phase on any map. Being pushed all the way back to the spike wall before going on the attack is unbelievably cinematic, and fighting alongside Argon is amazing. But being him is some of the most intense moments you'll get in the game. Seriously, I love the whole map, but that's what makes it great and land at number 3. Any of these top 3 have a case for number 1 for me, but most people see the argument for best map in Chivalry 2 as a debate between Rudhelm and Lionspire, and in a lot of ways they're right. So to the surprise of nobody, those are our top 2. They're the 2 maps I think of when I think of Chivalry 2. It's the Lord of the Rings or Game of Thrones feel of a classic castle siege, and I don't like Torn Banner straight away from this for a while. Gamers aren't complicated. This is what we play Chivalry 2 for, so please, Torn Banner and Chivalry 3 more like this and not Tenosia. But which is better? There are similar maps and feels and vibes, but I think Lionspire is actually more behind Rudhelm than most people think. It's number 2 for me because of Stage 1 and 2. Catapults are the worst, and Lionspire is a phenomenal map that can easily be ruined by a teammate killing you with a catapult when you're trying to do your job and play for the win. Catapult players are the worst. They don't care about killing teammates as long as they can show off their really pretty screenshot of a high number next to kills that they didn't earn at all. They're fine killing all their teammates. Runhelm has a catapult on stage 1, but it's rare you're farmed by a teammate on it at least. It's usually an enemy when you're on defense, and I think the individual stages of Runhelm are a lot better. But even if you think Lionspire has the higher highs, Runhelm is consistently great from beginning to end, and that's why I give it the edge. Check out the video on the screen now for some narrated gameplay, and I love you guys. I'll see you in the next one.